Hey guys, it's your favorite redheads, Alyssa
And Hannah.
and we are so excited to be here. Hannah, I think I'm coming down with something.
Could it be
Main character syndrome?
Hey guys, this is the prologue. You heard it right, main character syndrome. This is going to be the first, hopefully, of many episodes. We've got a lot to discuss, but first we have to tell you who we are.
We do. My name is Alyssa, and I actually am a lifestyle TV host in the Ozarks here in Missouri. And it's been a lot of fun, but I also just really love to read on my time off.
What time off?
What time off? Oh my gosh, seriously.
Well, my name is Hannah. I am one of Alyssa's very close personal confidants. It's an honor of a
One
lifetime.
of my best friends, honestly. We're twins.
We are.
We have twin energy.
If you can tell, we were separated at birth. I run a social media management company also here in Springfield, Missouri, the Las Vegas of the Midwest, some would call it. Not many, but some. And I too love to read. It's been a passion of mine for a long time. I got away from it for about a decade, but I'm happy to say I'm back in the promised land.
We love having you here.
Well, thank you. Thank you. You were one of the reasons that I got back into reading. So should we backtrack for a second?
Yes.
Freeze frame, record scratch, back to where it started?
Honestly, yeah, because through college and stuff, I stopped reading as much as I did in high school. I read a lot in high school to the point where I got in trouble.
Yep, reading too much.
The teacher would point me out in class and be
put
like,
the book away.
Alyssa, put the book
Yes.
away.
Oh, yeah. That same thing happened to me. I feel like my reading career was very early on. So I started reading pretty heavily, I would say, in like the third grade. That was whenever I first remember getting in trouble for reading. That's whenever I read the Harry Potter series.
Oh, yeah.
I was so enamored with it, which we'll get into that in a second. But that's whenever I really first found out you could like escape into these other worlds. And I was so infatuated. It was like the whole world had opened up before me. Got in trouble for reading all the time. I would rush through my work as quickly as I could. My grades suffered because of it because I'm like, if I can just finish this worksheet.
But were
whether
you
it's
an
correct-
above average reader?
I was.
Like, were you reading at
And
like
you know
a
what?
high school level at like third grade? 'Cause
Yes,
I was.
Yes, and that's where I think my superiority complex came from.
Exactly.
That's where it all started. Was because we had this thing called AR, and I think it was called Accelerated Reader.
Yes, it was.
In Missouri, because you were from Minnesota.
I also had ARs though, because
Okay.
we had the AR parties. If you made
Yes,
this many
yeah,
points,
yeah.
you get like a pizza party.
And for those who don't know, AR is like a program that they have in elementary schools in Missouri and Minnesota, apparently, where, and I'm sure many other areas, but you have a certain point goal based on this reading assessment that you take at the beginning of the year. And you'll say you have 50 points that you have to get. That's based on your propensity to read.
Yeah.
And different books are valued at different point levels. So you read the book and then you have to ask permission to go to the library and then you take your test. And when you pass the test, you get a certain number of points. So
some of those quizzes are hard.
some of them are they're like very niche. It's all about the book
Very.
to like prove that you've read it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you read the book and you go back and you're like, what on earth? I don't remember this. So it was this whole aptitude thing about how quickly you could read and so on. Once you had reached your goal every semester or every quarter, I think at that point, you would have a higher goal. And my goal, I remember at one point was like 180 points. And I felt like I was just on top of the freaking world, girl, because I had the highest AR goal in my 5th grade class.
Me too.
Look at us.
Look at us.
We were destined to meet.
I
But it
know.
really does. It gets in your head and you start to think that you just run the whole world.
You think that you're better than everyone at that point.
And you know what? Maybe we are.
Maybe.
I'm not going to say it, but if someone did, I probably wouldn't deny it.
We're just going to put that out in the universe.
Exactly. So what's the first series that you really remember getting into?
Oh my gosh, there were so many, but I have to say the Heartland series was one of my favorite when I was a little girl.
Yeah.
It was a book about horses, and I love horses.
Oh, I went through a Spirit phase. Did you watch
Oh my
the
gosh, I
cartoon?
loved Spirit.
Yeah, I never got into the books, but I read, or I watched Spirit probably 57 times.
Yeah, Stallion of the Cimarron or whatever.
Yes, and guess what? The soundtrack
Yes.
is on my playlist on Spotify, Training with the Illyrians.
No way.
Is that not a full circle moment?
Oh my gosh.
Okay, we'll get
it's
to
the
that.
best soundtrack ever, though.
It is the best soundtrack. Yeah, it gets me fired up. So you read the Heartland series.
Read the Heartland series, the Hunger Games, middle school.
Oh yeah, amazing. Formative.
Oh gosh, there were so many. The Click,
Yep.
Pretty Little Liars.
I never read those. I should have.
Oh my gosh. The books were nothing like the series. I
Yeah.
mean, the first series, or I guess first season of the TV show was the whole series of the book.
See, I'm so hypocritical that whenever I see a show before I read the books, then I get so annoyed with readers because they'll be on the message boards and on TikTok and everything like, this isn't what happened in the book. It was supposed to be like this in the book. I'm like, shut up. Okay, I like the TV show. This is how they made it. But if I read the book first and they make a movie, I am that person. And I'm on every single platform like, this is not how the source material portrayed it.
Yeah.
This is not what the author intended. You
This
guys
is actually trash.
Yeah, you guys are fake fans. You actually don't know what you're talking about. But whenever it's me that hasn't read the books and I only have seen the movie, I'm like, no one cares. If I wanted to know what happened in the book, I would read the book. So I am hypocritical.
So what books did you read?
So my first foray into the reading world was actually Chronicles of Narnia. My mom used to read it too. I mean, of course I read like small books and everything, Junie B. Jones and all of that. But like seriously.
Yeah.
My mom used to read it to me every single night. And eventually I got to a point where I was like so eager to hear what happened next that I just started reading it. And of course I was so slow, but that was the first thing that I really read that was like a grown-up book. And then the next thing that I read was the Harry Potter series. And obviously I went bananas for
Of
that.
course.
It was the first midnight book release I ever went to. It was Deathly Hallows. And I was so nerdy. Like I had my scar drawn on. I was wearing my mom's old graduation gown. Bless her sweet soul. She took me, and she was a reader, but more like the romance mystery type of books. And
Which we've now grown into.
Which we have now grown into, yes. But she was there with all of the like wizard teenagers and everything at midnight. And I just know she was like, what is my kid into? Like, why couldn't she have played soccer like everybody else? But we did that. We got the book. It was amazing. And from there, I read this series called Maximum Ride. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. This is niche. It's
Okay.
by James Patterson. And
I love him.
there's a conspiracy theory about this series because basically he has two books. One's called The Lake House and one's called Where the Wind Blows. And these are the adult versions. But the premise of both series is that there's these kids who are experimented on by these evil scientists, and they get avian bird DNA combined with human DNA. So they have wings. Bear with me here. Bear with me here. Because I read these books whenever I was in like 5th or 6th grade, and these stuck with me for a while. Like I wanted to have wings so bad. I was like, why was I raised by a loving family? Why wasn't I stolen by evil scientists at birth and given genetic experiments that I could have wings? And that haunted me for a long time. I probably wished for 3 birthdays in a row that I had wings. And guess what? I'm 25 and I'm back to wishing for that.
Oh, I swear. I was like, plot twist.
I
That's
know.
exactly what you're wishing
Plot
for
twist,
now.
I haven't evolved at all. But what happened is like these books, there were 4 of them whenever I first got into the series, and they were good. Like all 4 of them were pretty good. The 4th one, a little out there. Then like 5, 6, and 7 came out, and they kept getting more and more wild and like just completely like off the wall. Plots were changing. There were like evil twins. There were bigger bad guys, everything. So I didn't realize that this was a theory until I, for nostalgia's sake, went back and I was like Googling the series. People think James Patterson is a ghostwriter.
Oh.
Like there's multiple ghostwriters involved in James Patterson. I don't know if that's true. The only validity I can see to that is that these series, they have different writing styles from one book to the next. They are so vastly different from book like 2 to 6 to whatever else.
Okay.
That I can maybe see it. Just a fun little tidbit.
Okay. Well, there is also that conspiracy theory that Taylor Swift wrote Argyle.
I heard that. There's also one that she wrote a Dramini fan fiction.
Ooh.
Am I crazy?
I have not heard that one.
No, there's one. There's a theory because there's a really popular. What am I thinking?
There
of?
is a Dramini fan fiction though.
I just saw it was 2 a.m. I'm not researched enough to be speaking about this, but I saw something on TikTok recently that was saying that people think that she's the author of one of the like more well-known Harry Potter fan fictions, and that would be incredible.
I could see it.
That would be amazing.
I could see it. You know, things come in her head that I have no idea.
She's a mastermind.
She is a mastermind.
She could do mental laps around all of us.
Oh, 100%.
And not break a sweat.
Another book series. Do you remember the Warrior series that was
With
about
the cats?
Yes.
Yes,
I
absolutely. I
was
do.
obsessed with that.
Nothing about it. I remember the series though. Like I remember the covers very vividly.
Yeah, I remember it was about cats at war. I was like, what
Yeah.
is this?
Because why wouldn't it be?
Exactly.
There was also a series. Okay, well, of course, a series of unfortunate events. We all read that one.
Yep.
That one's great. What came after that? There was one that was big. I feel like
Mortal Instruments.
I never read that either.
Oh, that was so good. Oh, Shadowhunters was trash compared
See,
to it.
The thing that I do is I find one thing that I really am obsessed with, and I won't move on from it. Here's another deep cut back to the Harry Potter phase that I was in that lasted for years. So my Harry Potter phase bled into when Twilight was big.
Okay.
And I was so I picked this hill to die on, and no one asked me to, but I was like, it's one or the other. It's Harry Potter or Twilight. You can't do both.
yeah.
So I straight up refused to read Twilight. Not only that, but I was on like Yahoo Answers trashing Twilight at the ripe age of 11 to 12 years old.
Hannah.
I was on there and I was like, because Yahoo Answers used to be like Reddit, like a message board.
Yeah.
And people would be asking questions about like, should I read Harry Potter or should I read Twilight? Me, not having read Twilight, would be on there. Twilight is a trash,
Oh my
a
gosh.
trash book series. It is not based in whatever. Like I don't even know what I'm talking about. I read this on another message board. I'm just regurgitating it. So I don't know how many nights I spent just like straight up defending Harry Potter. They're not the same. They're not mutually
They're completely
exclusive.
different.
You can like both. So I never read Twilight for that exact reason because I was like, I'm a Harry Potter girl. I am better than Twilight girls. I'm not just reading that romance.
I never read Twilight either. So like,
us.
sorry, but I
And I'm
read
not-
Vampire Academy instead.
I'm not opposed to Twilight, just for the record. Like I know there are some
I want to read it.
Twilight
Like,
apologists.
I will read it. At some point. It's on the TBR. It's just on the list of 300 other books.
Yeah, it's in the queue. It's in the queue. I did see the first Twilight movie for the first time last October, like 6 months or so ago. I know, because I had this embedded in me so deeply that I was like, no.
Oh my gosh.
No. So I'm not sure if that's something that I made up or if other people had a similar experience to where they felt like it had to be mutually exclusive. So if anyone has read Harry Potter and wants to chime in, or Twilight, and you felt like there was some kind of a rivalry, again, I don't even know where that came from. I just somehow had this, like, I'm not like other girls in my head, and I didn't.
I'm not basic.
I'm not basic. Okay, I don't need vampires. I am fine with a Weasley twin.
First of all, though, if you haven't read Vampire Academy, you need to.
I think that's been recommended to me recently. I think through Goodreads or something like that.
Again, the movie is trash. They made it into a
Yes.
comedy when it's not a comedy at all.
That's the worst.
Oh, it was. I was
You
so
massacred it.
mad. I was raging when I was
There's
younger.
nothing worse than that, than like a film adaptation. I think that Maximum Ride, the series that I was just talking about, there was a movie made into a film, and Jenna Marbles was a producer on it, which is wild. I never saw it, but I heard it was so bad. It has like a 2% on Rotten Tomatoes.
gosh.
Don't quote me on that, but I know it absolutely tanked, and I don't even know if it was like mainstream aired, but I was so disappointed because it had so much potential.
That's why I'm scared about this series that we're going to be talking about, ACOTAR, A Court of Thorns and Roses. The talks of it being a TV series, how well it's going to be done.
I'm
Because if
nervous.
it is trash, the whole
Yeah.
fandom is going to be
Up in
irate.
arms. So a few loose threads that I already have to go back to.
Okay.
First of all, in Maximum Ride, you don't care about this, but I have to make a comment about it for anyone who cares. There's this main character named Fang. And you know how every protagonist that's a female is like sassy, strong-willed,
Yeah.
like kind of a smartass? That's where I got my personality. I'm not kidding. Max, the main girl, she has this like dynamic, just really sarcastic, dry sense of humor. And I think that things that I still say to this present day, I copied from her.
I love
like
it.
15 years ago. And if I had to trace back all these different facets of my personality, I think like 80% of it came from how she was written. And she wasn't even written that great. She was written by a middle-aged man. You know?
Yeah,
So,
seriously.
there's a lot to unpack there, but I thought she was so cool, and she just had such an attitude, and like she had hot pink streaks in her hair. So for, of course, years I begged my mom to let me get hot pink streaks in my hair. She didn't let me, but that's okay. Back to Fang. He's the main man in this whole series. He has dark hair. He's tall. He's muscular. He has wings.
Oh gosh,
He's broody.
I'm seeing where this is going.
He's broody. And I didn't realize this until probably a month ago whenever I was thinking about it. I'm like, he was the original Shadow Daddy.
No kidding.
He was. And I was reading about him at like, I don't know, age 10. I'm like, that is the man. That is who I want in my life. It's a man who's been genetically engineered to have bird wings, in case anyone was wondering.
There you go.
Yep. So that it's all rooted.
And now we go from bird wings to bat wings.
Bird wings to bat wings. I won't lie. Whenever I first read ACOTAR and they were talking about bat wings, I was like, there's no feathers. Because that's what I had in my head. I was like, obviously that's the kind of wing that I would like.
Now that I think of it, I'm like, there's feathers.
Yes, I know. I know. But that's the crazy thing is whenever you, and of course, Crescent City, you go back to feathers. Yeah. But whenever, and you know, most people have preferences if they like blonde or brunette men. Some have preferences if they like bat wings or bird wings.
There's just something about a dark-haired man with bat wings.
Yep. So I could trace it back. So that's a little fun deep cut for you.
That is interesting how that just went full circle.
I know. It's really crazy how psychology works.
I love that for you.
I think to go back to Harry Potter once again, this was special to me in my reading journey because it was how I got introduced to internet culture with like a fandom.
Oh, really?
And I don't know how you kind of got introduced to the internet with any of your series, but when Harry Potter was big, I think it was when the internet was starting to get way more interactive. So of course you could have like these little quizzes about like which house would you be in. They had the most OG form of edits, which would be like Draco and Hermione set to Bleeding Love by Leona Lewis on YouTube, and it's a 4.5 minute long video, and I would watch it all the time. I would watch it daily.
I have to say the fandom that I got sucked into was Hunger Games.
That's a great one to get sucked into.
Loved that series. I thought that was my top series of all time. It has changed since. It has changed to probably Fourth Wing.
I need to know what your internet experience was like with Hunger Games.
Honestly, you know, you had to look at what district you would be in.
Of course, naturally.
I was District 12.
Beautiful.
You know, PETA was just like the heartthrob. That was what you wanted. I also have axe to grind with whoever made the movie. The first Hunger Games, there were way more kissing scenes with Katniss and PETA than was shown on screen. There was one kiss.
And they cut his personality out so much.
Oh, for sure.
Like so many of his jokes and his wittiness and his charm, he's just kind of reduced to this. And I love Josh Hutcherson. I think he's an amazing actor.
Oh, for sure.
I feel like they watered his lines down so much that you just don't even understand why she has a choice between. Maybe that's why they did it to even the playing fields, because
maybe
if it was Peeta and Gale as they're written, it's like, okay, obviously Peeta, he's way better. But then maybe they chose to dial his personality back so that you just didn't have as much of a competition.
Well, and Peeta just seems so vanilla. I think maybe that might have been the reason it was written that way, was because Peeta was safe compared to Gale. Yeah. Gale wanted to be a rebel. And then Peeta was, protecting her.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
I could go in all day about Hunger Games.
Maybe we'll do a special Hunger Games episode.
Maybe.
I would have to reread that because it's been a while, but I just know, I remember reading the third book, reading Mockingjay for the first time, and that was like my comfort read. And I'm like, why is this my comfort read?
I found something's wrong with me. It was so much darker in the books than it was in the movie, and I completely forgot about some of the scenes that happened, because Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes came out this last year in the movie theater, and it was really good. Loved it. Read the book too, and really, really good. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. But it was so dark in Mockingjay Part 2.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This is supposed to be like young adult.
And then you're thinking about the reflection of like the society that's depicted in the book, and you're thinking about what these people are going through and the decisions and like the mass murder, like all these different things.
How they just kill people.
Yeah. And then you're reading about it and people sacrificing their lives and the implications of all of that. And I went back and like watched the movie again, and I'm like, this was a lot. I don't think I processed this at 11 years old. I don't think I quite understood it.
I think it's because I read these books now and I'm like reading torture scenes. I'm like, this is nothing.
Yeah, you're like, I could withstand torture.
Literally.
Me who won't even speak up whenever my nails are getting ground too thin at the nail salon, and I'm like sweating.
Oof, girl.
I'm like, I could for sure withstand what Violet Sorrengail did. I wouldn't break.
Oh gosh, that made me cringe internally.
I would break. Let's just put that out there.
I would break. I could never.
But am I going to act like in my head I wouldn't? Of course. Of course I'm going to think that I wouldn't break. One more thing. Did you ever get into fan fiction?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. That was where I was going with Harry Potter. This is something that I feel like in my adult life, I'll admit, I have kept this a secret for decades. I was so heavily invested in Harry Potter fan fiction. I think I read that probably just as much, if not more, than actual books at that age.
Oh.
And everything from just being like a student, like an original character written into the Harry Potter universe, to like Fred Weasley romances. That was my guy. Love him so much. But everything,
Fred, we love you.
Everything was so like the world, again, the clouds parted, the sun shone down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's more. Like, it's horribly written by a 13-year-old in Indonesia, but it's my world. Like, it's Harry Potter. So that's kind of where the whole thing opened up. I spent so much time on it was like Harry Potter World, or what was it called? I won't be able to remember, but there's a whole website we could like get sorted by the sorting hat and play all these little games. And I lived on that as well. It took me a long time to get out of that phase. And I think it was Maximum Ride that kind of broke me out of it. But I do credit that for so much of my personality, because everyone knows that being a fan of something is just intensified by having other fans to share it with. And that's why I think that book talk and everything else that we're going to discuss is so important and special, and that the community around reading is now so big, because before no one really cared. And I had to seek out community online because the only people that really cared as much as I did were not in my third grade class. They were somewhere else in the world. So all of our listeners, I'm assuming that they're going to be advanced readers as well. Like yourself and me.
Yes, of course. You were the cool kid.
Yes.
Actually, no, you were the nerd. But now you're the cool kid.
But now we're cool, because we've been ahead of this trend for 2 decades.
We have been.
But I think that it's so special and so fun. And that's why, as much as I still love Harry Potter, I don't really reread it, but I will always be so thankful that I fell into that Alice in Wonderland hole that was fanfiction.com.
I love that for you. I actually didn't discover fan fiction until after I read the ACOTAR series.
Really?
I discovered AO3 and A Court of Mist and Fury, Rhysand's point of view.
I've heard of this.
Girl.
I haven't read it.
It's amazing. Whoever wrote it needs to write a book. And I think they actually might have like written or printed it out from AO3 into like a little chapter
that you
book.
can buy it?
Yeah.
What are the copyright laws with that? Like,
I don't know.
Because if I were Sarah J. Maas, I'd be like, I'm gonna want that.
That's my work. Like,
girl, I'm gonna want that.
Seriously.
Where's my royalties?
Yeah.
You know what? She's probably doing just fine. But I don't know if you would be flattered as an author that people are writing about it. I think that I would, because I know the like passion that comes from fans. But at the same time, do they get mad? Are they like, hey, that's mine?
I don't know. Maybe they're like, ooh, that's a good idea.
I think I would be flattered by it. I always thought that if I were a celebrity or if I were an author or anything else, I would want the crazy fans. I would want them to be like writing these graphic, crazy fan fictions about me because I'm like, they care so much.
Oh yeah, I would want fan fictions.
Yeah,
like
the
give me
edits.
all of your versions of what you think. That's why I feel like I would be one of those authors that does something like an open-ended ending.
Yes,
almost.
so
like,
people can like
doesn't wrap it around in a pretty little bow.
Yes,
but still leaves it open to interpretation.
Because you know what's crazy is that in every like fandom or series that I've been into, there's always like an era of when the fan fictions are set, and it's never at the actual like canonical conclusion of the story. Like if you read a Harry Potter fan fiction, it doesn't take place when Harry and Ginny are married with their kids in suburbia. It doesn't happen. Then it always goes back to like the golden years of Hogwarts, and they just write out Voldemort, and they're like, this is just going to take place around the same time period. But it's the same thing with like the Avengers, which is my one true love. That's actually the most important thing that you should know about me is I'm so heavily into Marvel that it cripples me.
Oh, girl,
daily.
Same.
Should we talk about it?
Oh my gosh. Do we have enough time?
Question mark. But even with Avengers, like we've all seen, hopefully, spoiler, we've all seen the whole arc. Like we know we lose some beloved characters. So in Marvel fan fictions, which obviously I've read, they all take place in this weird like middle ground where no one's dead. Everyone somehow lives together. It's that found family trope.
I love that.
Everyone lives in like either the Avengers Tower or the Avengers compound, even Loki sometimes. Which,
oh my gosh.
if we're thinking about it, probably not going to happen. But that's where they all said it. And I'm sure with Hunger Games too, they figure out where to, because I haven't personally consumed any, but maybe you can hop in or anybody can, where they'll pick like the most pleasant part of the story. And like, that's where this universe is going to live. And it's like all of the fans agree that's where the fan fictions get written. And of course there are a few like one-off things and whatever else, but by and large, that's what people do. So as an author, for you to say that, I agree. The fans would love you.
I love to think of that like little world of like all the characters just living happily ever after, even if they're not. Like, I Love You 3000 tears at my heartstrings.
Oh my gosh,
every single time.
Every single time.
Breaks my heart.
I can't watch it. I can't think about it without crying. You know, if I need to feel something, I will go on TikTok.gov, the most reputable news source, and I will watch theater reactions to either Endgame or No Way Home.
Oh my gosh.
And it's either all the Peters coming through the portal or Cap picking up Thor's hammer and everyone's cheering, or it's I Am Iron Man.
Oh gosh.
And I saw it in theaters. The way that people erupt and like feel the emotion, I will sob every time.
Oh,
every
know. Oh my gosh, feeling that in the theater. But we are getting a little off topic here.
Yeah.
That's okay though, because we're just so passionate about everything and pop culture, and it's fun.
Exactly. Would you like to go back to the beginning and tell us what main character syndrome is?
That is true. We should probably
We did have an outline. I promise. We're just so passionate about everything that we're discussing, and this will happen many times. I won't say that it won't.
That's okay. I mean, it happens to us. It happens to the best of us. So we call ourselves, this is the Main Character Syndrome podcast, because the definition of main character syndrome is a fantastic term describing a person who thinks they are the protagonist of any situation they are in. And I think that describes us to a T.
What are we if not main characters?
What are we? Exactly. Like every time I read Crescent City, I'm like, oh, she is a redhead. I am Bryce Quinlan. I see Little Mermaid. I'm like, I'm Ariel.
Oh, obviously. And every single character, like Black Widow, I'm her, obviously.
Oh, for sure.
Me couldn't pick a lock to save my life. I'm obviously Black Widow. I couldn't hit a target if it were this big around with anything.
I can't, lift 200 pounds, but
guess what? That's me. I'm Black Widow.
Yep.
I am a highly trained assassin.
I'm also a mermaid, so that works.
And you are the Starborn Princess.
Exactly.
Aren't we all?
We are all the Starborn Princess.
So we consider ourselves a protagonist. We have such an affinity and love for literature and for books and everything else that this whole podcast is kind of geared around. But we won't claim to be English majors. We're not going to be talking as the most intelligent. Yeah. Of course we think we are, but it's our opinions and our love, and that's really it.
It honestly is. We're not going to always be literally what I say.
Yeah.
Grammatically correct, if you will. We are not like English scholars.
No, we're not going to be doing these Edgar Allan Poe reviews, breaking down every single scene and the symbolism. And you know what? Maybe we will, but will it be accurate? We don't know.
We'll see.
We don't know. We're just going to be talking about it because we, at the end of the day, are just two girls who love to read, are passionate about these stories, and want to share that with the world, and hopefully find more people that want to hear us talk about it, because everyone knows when you're obsessed with something, the best part is sharing it. And we consume a lot of ACOTAR related
Oh gosh,
material.
we do. Yep. I'm constantly sending you like reels that are ACOTAR themed.
Yep. So why not just add to the pool? Why not add more things that we can throw into the mix?
Yeah. So definitely follow us on social media. We are Main Character Syndrome Pod, and we are going to be posting lots of fun content, including podcasts.
Yep.
We'll be talking about, some previews. Also, some fun TikTok-y, real fun things.
We have a lot of things backed up. We both have full-time jobs, which we mentioned. So that's why this has been such a labor of love trying to get to this point where we're actually recording. Alyssa, you are my heart and soul. Thank you for doing all the work you've done. I appreciate you so much. But we've been friends for what, 2 years?
2 years?
3 years now? We met at a golf event.
We did. So
Shocking.
It's funny. I actually manifested meeting Hannah because one of my friends actually showed me your Instagram once and was like, this is my friend Hannah. She runs a social media thing. You guys should totally meet and like connect. And I was like, yeah, cool, for sure. Never happened. And then I joined a golf league and you're in my group. And I was like,
that is so
wait
wild.
a second, what's your name? You're like, Hannah. And I was like, I know you.
That is insane. And for the record, it wasn't a golf league like on the actual golf course. It was a golf league in the way that Top Golf is golf.
It was like Top Golf League.
Yeah,
where
and it was
you just
networking.
It wasn't like professional by any means.
No, I got recruited to join it and I was like, I'm going to have to bring a proxy. So I brought my husband and he was the one who was actually hitting the golf balls. It was my name, I think. I was like, you don't want me in this. I'm going to tank us. And then not in a cute way, not in a cute like, oh, sweetie, like, let me show you how to do it in a way that's like, get out of the box. You should not be holding a club. This is a liability that no waiver can cover.
Yeah.
So I sat there and I would order my little snacks and appetizers. And then I see this beautiful redheaded female coming to our group. And I'm like, who are you? And we start chatting and you're actually good. You can hit a golf ball in it. That was frustrating, annoying. But
I played golf in high school. It's no big deal.
Of course you did. No, I read in high school and that was it. I didn't do much else.
It's all right.
but we met through that and we just started talking and we never really stopped talking. And once we both found out we were in to the same book series, which you have such a jump on me. You started reading ACOTAR like 2 years ago.
I did. I really did. I started reading ACOTAR and then that got me into Throne of Glass and then that got me into Crescent City and then I read Fourth Wing and I was like, I am deep in this.
And I'm not quite that far into it. So I started reading ACOTAR back in October of last year, tore through that entire series, started reading Crescent City, read both of I read Fourth Wing first, Fourth Wing and Iron Flame. Then I went into Crescent City, read 1, 2, and then got Crescent City 3 right when it came out, tore through that, just devoured it. And now, as of when we're recording in the end of March, I'm going back through the ACOTAR series, and like there are just so many things that I feel like I missed. Because again, I'm a big re-consumer of the same media. I don't like to branch out to new things. Once I know I like something, I'm going to keep beating it until it's dead.
Oh, I beat ACOTAR like a dead horse.
Yes.
Like I went through Rhysand fan fiction. Like I was going through Pinterest, like ACOTAR. I was looking at pictures. I was looking at videos, YouTube compilations, like when people like draw and they make it into like a song.
You know, they're the ambient YouTube videos that you can have, like Reading in the House of Wind. It's like a 3-hour long YouTube video. I love those. Take me through your fangirling process. So you consume a piece of media. That little thing switches on in your head.
Okay.
Where you are like, oh, this is about to be my new personality. That's how it works for me. What's your process? And then I'll take you through mine.
Kind of what I just said. You know, I start reading a book and then I listen and I see these characters. I'm like, okay, what does Feyre look like? What does Nesta look like? What does Tamlin look like?
Right.
Excuse me. We'll get into that. And then, Rhysand. And I'm like, okay, let's go on Pinterest and see like if anyone has any ideas or drawings or pictures. There are so many. Pinterest is my best friend.
Yes.
For book talk girlies, Pinterest is your best friend. And then AI is coming out with some stuff too, where it's like
animating.
That's what they actually look like
and sound like. Amazing.
Incredible. And then, you know, you just keep going down the rabbit hole of video after video on TikTok and Instagram. And then all of a sudden it's 4 a.m. and you're like, ooh, I should probably go to bed.
Like, I have to be up for work in 2 hours. Oh no. And then you said things to me and then I'm also up. And then we're both like, it's like, Ariana, what are you doing here? And then we're both awake on TikTok /AO3.
It's fine.
But who's counting? That's similar to my process. So whenever I watch a piece of media that I really am, it's seriously like a lever gets pulled. Like whatever little puppets operate my brain, it's like they have this giant switch and they all band together and then just switch it down. And I'm like, and then I come to life again. Like whenever I have an obsession.
Obsessed.
Yes. I feel like whenever I have this new hyperfixation, it literally is like the world gets put into Technicolor. Because beforehand I'm just like drudging through life, like whatever, punching my card. I don't actually punch a card. I'm self-employed. But metaphorically, then whenever I get this like light in my eyes, all of a sudden the world has purpose again. And it's for me to consume as much of this media as possible. So for me, when I'm reading it, the switch gets flipped. The first thing I do, like you said, is you have to find the visuals. If it's a movie or something, what you're going to do is Google the actors, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
For a book, it's Pinterest, but you have to be so selective because you don't want to have spoilers.
Yeah.
So like whenever I first was doing it for ACOTAR, I think I saw, spoiler, some fan art of Nesta in the Cauldron. And I'm like,
oh, yeah.
What's going on with that? So I had a spoiler long before I even knew what to make of it. And then I think I saw one of Feyre being pregnant before I even got to that point in the series.
Also a spoiler. We're going to have a few spoilers in this podcast, but we'll try and tell you if it's going to be a spoiler or not.
Yes. Sorry.
That's a big one.
I'll put it in post. But I saw the spoiler and I'm like, okay, is this just somebody making fan art because they wanted to make fan art of her having a baby? Because sometimes people do that. Or does this actually happen? So I kind of just put it in the back of my head and like filed it away as someone did this because I thought it would be cool, not because it actually happens. And then I got there and I was like, oh, that actually, I did spoil that for myself. So Pinterest is going to be the second phase. And then you go into the TikTok wormhole. And then you go into the fan fiction wormhole. So that's kind of the process for me.
Yeah. And then before I found Pinterest, I would Google like Feyre Archeron actress.
Yes.
And then I would get kind of like lists of like different actresses that would play Feyre in like a
fan cast.
movie or a fan cast. And I'm like, okay, that's what I can picture in my head. And then I look at Rhysand, I look at Tamlin, and I look at Lucien, and I'm like, okay, I have this whole cast of characters in my head.
I love. Do you want to go through our fan casts?
Oh my goodness. I have to pull this up now. I forget what their names are.
I mean, we can also save this.
We should save this for later.
Okay. Well, that's pretty much who we are. That's our gist. We've got so many episodes that we want to crank out for you guys and so many things to talk about. So what you can expect from us.
We have lots of stuff in store for you. Oh my gosh.
Lots of fangirling. We're going to go through the ACOTAR series. We're going to go through Fourth Wing. We're going to go through Throne of Glass as I read that, go through Crescent City. And our game plan as of now is to go through each series and then break it up with a fun book-themed kind of palate cleanser episode, talking about our favorite tropes, talking about our favorite characteristics, and analyzing these female archetypes and
bad
all
boys
kinds of
versus
things.
shadow daddies.
Obviously, the hard hitters.
Of course.
The most important questions. So that's the game plan. We are bulk recording, so unfortunately we won't be able to have any feedback between these first few episodes, but going forward, we would love to hear anything that you guys have to say, recommendations, questions, comments.
Yeah, what are your favorite series? What's your favorite part about our podcast that you kind of resonate with? Just kind of tell us your thoughts.
Except for critiques, we don't accept those.
As long as they're positive. We don't want any negativity on this podcast.
Yeah, we are not accepting negative feedback at this time. Thank you for that.
Thank you. But no, I'm so excited for this podcast because we have so many things to talk about. We have such a love for books in general, but also we just got into the fantasy world. And I think it's just blown our minds and the world because reading is finally cool. And we'll talk about that in episode 2. But my gosh, it has blown up.
Yeah, it's not taboo anymore. It's not this nerdy thing that only the Rory Gilmores do. It's
exactly.
It's cool.
I would actually be able to read in the back of class without being picked on. The teacher would probably be like, ooh, what's that book?
Yeah, they'd be like, oh, follow me on Goodreads.
Seriously, follow me on Goodreads. Follow me on Instagram.
Exactly. Follow my Bookstagram.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And I do regret that we didn't get to experience this wave growing up. But I think having the outcast wave of being a reader, I think that really forged our personalities and it forged who we are as people. And I wouldn't change it. Even if I got picked on, I would change it.
You know what? You're nerdy. That makes you you.
Yeah. It builds character. Okay.
And now people want to be you. I
will pray for them. I will pray for them. Seek help.
I love it.
Anyways, thanks for listening to our first episode. We're obviously so thrilled to be here. And do you have any final thoughts?
You know what? I want to say this to the readers who listen
and the dreams that are answered.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.